Hi YouTube, welcome to another edition of Horror Hands, and for this video I'm going to be going through 5 underrated horror sequels. Some sequels that don't get mentioned all that much, or if they do, they kind of get dissed on a lot. So, got a few part 2s, a part 3, there's even a part 6 in here. So let's get straight to it. This is 5 underrated horror movie sequels. First up, we have Alligator II, The Mutation from 1991. Kind of a similar premise to the first Alligator movie. We've got a giant mutated alligator stalking the sewers in this city, and a cop and a grizzled hunter have to try and track it down and destroy it. And this one kind of throws in a city fun fair towards the end of the movie, which gives the creature lots of opportunity to cause some mayhem and chomp down on various unsuspecting characters. But I've talked about Alligator a few times. Alligator is like a seriously good film that doesn't really get the credit it deserves. Alligator 2 is not quite as good of a film as the first movie, but this is certainly a fun sort of creature feature killer animal movie. I was surprised by how enjoyable this one was and how much of a good time I had watching Alligator 2. And it's really a sequel that seems to not get mentioned at all. It's got of course, the awesome giant killer alligator in it. That looks really cool. It gets a decent amount of screen time, especially towards the end when it invades this town fair. But it's really the cast of Alligator 2 which is a big appeal for me. You've got Dee Wallace in the main role, who's always wonderful in whatever she's in. Richard Lynch plays the grizzled alligator hunter, and he's great in this. And you've got Steve Railsback, who I always like him in anything. I think he plays kind of the slimy, seedy town mayor, who, of course, in all of these movies, doesn't want to deal with the problem for monetary reasons. But yeah, Alligator 2, if you want kind of a fun, sort of brainless creature feature and a pretty decent follow-on to the first Alligator movie, definitely check this one out. It should get a bit more props than what it gets. So first movie up is Alligator 2, The Mutation. Second movie on the list, and I'm almost nervous to go there with this one, but here goes. Second movie up is Exorcist II from 1977. Oh, I can just feel the thumbs down raining in at the mere mention of this one. The Exorcist II, I gotta say, I've watched it a few times, not for a while. I watched it a year or two ago and was surprised how much I enjoyed it. I think I kind of finally get and have mellowed out to The Exorcist II and what it was going for. It's never going to be as good as the first movie. That, in my opinion, is the greatest horror movie of all time. But Exorcist II is kind of like a sleeper sequel I find rather enjoyable. I do like the sort of the medical route that this one goes down, with sort of the tests that are being conducted on Linda Blair, and it kind of taking place in that facility, and the subtle notions of the demonic presence still being there. And I've even warmed to kind of the side story of when they go to, I think, Africa somewhere, and there's the exploration of how all this came about, and kind of the thing with Richard Burton as the priest, and the struggles that he has. Some of the original cast come back. Max von Sydow is doing his thing in this, and we've got some other surprising additions like James Earl Jones, Louise Fletcher. She pops up in this one, and I believe Richard Burton only made the movie because he was going through a divorce at the time and needed the money. But it's nice to see him kind of hamming it up and chewing up the scenery. So yeah, much more kind of refrained and limited in its approach. I believe Linda Blair refused to do any kind of makeup scenes in this one, but I still like the look of the demon when it pops up here and there in this movie. And I think it actually has a rather exhilarating climax where the house and everything crumbles. That was rather spectacular for what is a pretty slow burn movie. So yeah, I know pretty much everyone hates Exorcist 2. I get it. I'm not even going to try and convince anyone to rewatch this one, but personally I found upon recent viewings, I have enjoyed it a lot more. This one's kind of a bit of a turnaround movie. When I watched this as a kid, I just thought it was totally bogus. I thought it was awful. I thought the sets looked terrible. They almost looked like made of cardboard. But I've kind of come around as I get older. I enjoy it more. It's usually the opposite way around for me with movies. So yeah, second on the list is Exorcist II. Next up on the list, we have Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, from 1986. Now, I absolutely love the Friday the 13th franchise. It is my favourite horror movie franchise. And Part 6 is just... Part 6 for me is how a slasher should be. This is kind of like the prototypical template that every slasher movie should follow. It's so much fun. It moves along at a great pace, great characters, great kills, of course. Jason gets plenty of screen time doing his thing. Throws in a bit of humour here and there and a bit of kind of knowing references. It's just a great movie, and within the Friday the 13th community, this is a popular one, but I just think this should be heralded slightly more. It's just a great, fun popcorn horror movie. I also wanted to talk about Friday the 13th Part 6, for me, has perhaps the greatest opening 10 minutes to a horror film I've ever seen. This is how you should open a horror film. The scene with the two guys digging up the grave, a rotting Jason Voorhees carcass is laying there. It gets struck by lightning, brings him back to life. Kind of hints of like Frankenstein and gothic horror thrown in there. And he sort of rises out of the grave and immediately starts killing people. It's just glorious to see. The setting is amazing in the kind of the rainy, dark cemetery. It's just absolutely fantastic. One of the greatest horror openings I've ever seen. And Friday the 13th Part 6 should genuinely get more praise for that opening. It's fantastic. And as I say, the rest of the movie is just an absolute hoot. So yeah, one of my favourite Friday the 13th movies, one of my favourite horror sequels. Next on the list is Friday the 13th Part 6. Next up we have Leprechaun III from 1995. Warwick Davis takes his Leprechaun character to Las Vegas, and it is a hilarious joy to watch. Seeing the Leprechaun character gleefully running around Las Vegas, embracing the Las Vegas environment is just absolutely fantastic. And seeing him in a place where, quite frankly, it's quite greedy and, you know, sort of money and finance orientated, with him also trying to get his pot of gold, it just works so well. You get the usual regular kind of great Leprechaun moments, some really funny one-liners. Warwick Davis seems to be absolutely loving it in this movie. Some great kills, some good practical effects in this one. This is just a movie where you just sort of dismiss any kind of critical rationale and just go in this and have a good time. It is just an absolute joy of a movie. Probably my favourite of the Leprechaun movies. Putting it in the Las Vegas setting was just a stroke of genius, and the Leprechaun character thrives in that kind of place. It's just so much fun to watch. So yeah, next on the list is Leprechaun 3. And the last movie on the list is The Rage, Carrie 2 from 1999. Now I remember this coming out in 1999 and I quickly dismissed it. I thought there's no way a Carrie sequel can work. It's going to be a very poor follow-on from what was a fantastic stylish movie. And I dismissed it as like a cash-in. And it wasn't until the 88 films Blu-ray came out that I gave it a chance. And I really enjoyed it. So, you know, that was me being wrong on that count. But yeah, this is a really cool late 90s movie. They kind of substitute the sort of tragic tale of the first movie with a more kind of updated at the time high school teen angst kind of story, with a bit of like gothic culture thrown in as well, which I really liked. A bit of kind of emo before it was popular. And this young woman in high school, she's having a tough time, and I think a friend is driven to commit suicide, and she's kind of fueled with revenge and discovers that she has this telekinetic power to boot. So yeah, the storyline goes from there, and it all kind of climaxes at if I remember right, it's like a pool party or something. But it's yeah, it's a good movie, and it's a good kind of follow on from Carrie. It doesn't try to ride the coattails of that great movie. It sort of tells its own story with just a hint of the themes that were in the first movie. So a pretty good kind of supplementary sequel, if you will. Done really well. It's got some good 90s style. If you like that kind of late 90s teen theme, which I do, because that was like my time in school, I think you will like this one. So yeah, don't kind of dismiss this like I did. Give it a chance. It's its own sequel. It does some pretty good things. It has some good ideas going on there, and was, you know, respectable to the first movie that came along as well. This was a surprise hit for me. Was Carrie 2. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, last up on this list is The Rage, Carrie 2. So there you go, guys. That is 5 underrated horror sequels, in my opinion. Let me know what you think of that, whether you agree or not. Feel free to give me some crap for like an Exorcist 2. And let me know what 5 underrated horror sequels are for you. I'd be really interested to know. So thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.